Sure. So I'll go ahead and get us started. And yeah, and I will just kind of admit people as they drop in, and then once everything's kind of done, I'll edit it and upload it and share the link and all of that.
Okay. Does my sound okay?
Yeah, it sounds great. Yeah, I'm hearing you loud and clear. So, and the artwork in the background is awesome. So
great. That I forget the artist's name, but I think it's a local from like Tucson or Flagstaff. It's
right on.
Yeah, it's one of his favorite artists, but I forget the name off the top of my head. But yeah, we just need to hang it.
Right. I have lots of pictures. I'm still in need of hanging.
Yeah.
So I thought it might be helpful to start for those who might watch this who aren't aware of who you are, to maybe just introduce yourself and tell us what you do at SUU, and maybe a little bit about how you got into photography and how that relates.
Sure. So I'm Katie Englert, and my current position at SUU is I'm the honors lecturer. So I teach the majority of the honors required classes. And I've been in that role for about 2 years. And so my background educationally is I did my undergraduate in photojournalism and kind of a double degree in anthropology at Western Kentucky University. And then I did my master's in anthropology with an emphasis on visual anthropology at the Australian National University in Canberra. So I got into photography probably in high school. I took a black and white class where we got to run the film and print, and I just fell in love with it. I've always been interested in journalism. I used to create little newspapers for my family in the summertime and do stuff like that. And I kind of thought at the time, a photojournalist was someone who writes and takes pictures, and basically that was it. And I learned really quickly when I got to Western that it's a lot more than that. It's really trying to visually tell someone else's story or the story of the event. And yeah, I just love it. I kind of took a different direction, worked in photojournalism for a few years. In fact, my last newspaper I worked at was at the Ogden Standard Examiner up in Ogden. And that was the first time I lived out in Utah. That would have been in 2002. It was when the Olympics were in Utah, which was awesome to be around. I got to shoot all of the events that were going on in the community, but weren't necessarily the Olympics events. I did get to shoot some of the Paralympics, so that was fun. But
very cool.
Yeah, and then I went back to school and kind of took my photography into a different direction within the field of visual anthropology. And at the time, with all my research of where to go to school, the best visual anthropologists were in Australia. And that's kind of why I went to ANU and got to learn from them, David and Judith McDougall. And yeah, so I've been teaching anthropology for years in kind of the online format. And for the majority of that time, I found myself about 10 years ago, I was living in Portland, Oregon. I was teaching adjunct anthropology, working at Trader Joe's, and just kind of really, which I loved. I love working there. But I was not shooting very much, and I was really frustrated with that. And so I just there was a photo a day visual project that other photographers were doing, but they were kind of submitting photos each day of what they liked and whatnot. And, I thought this is a great inspiration for me to get off my butt and go out and shoot every day. And it was great. It through that process of just going out and shooting whatever, I started shooting a lot of different things. Before that, I was, usually shooting more photojournalistic style, documenting, events, newsworthy events, portraits, football games, sports, whatever, that you'd find in most newspapers. And once I started this photo a day project, or one day at a time, I started shooting a lot of stuff that I just never would have shot. Inanimate objects, puzzles, people on the street, corners. So through that, I developed a lot of different series, and I've been posting a picture a day up onto my website now for over 10 years. In fact, back in January this year, I went back to Portland. It worked out in my schedule. I could go back, and I went back to the very first place that I took the first picture of the project. And I'm going to try to do that every 5 years and post how that scene has changed, over time. But so yeah, that's kind of, and I've been shooting a lot. Like I said, different things that I'll go back to. So I have about 30, 35 ongoing themes on my website. And I can go ahead and share my screen if
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, feel free to go ahead and share the screen. And also, just to mention for folks who might want to check out the site, it's katieenglert.com, right?
Yeah, I think you might have to, it looks like it's disabled.
Oh gosh, let me fix that real quick. And while I am figuring that out, okay, so try that now. It should give you access to that.
Awesome, yeah. Okay, so this is kind of what my website looks like at the moment. And I did not update my picture from yesterday, but so here on the right side, you can just see all these different ongoing themes. And kind of, if you're interested, whoever's looking at this in viewing the website, a good way to do it is you can either kind of go up here to one day at a time, and that just has all 10 years and all the months, day by day of the different images. I have some multimedia projects I've worked on, and some other kind of more in-depth projects I've worked on with still. But here is where you see like I'm also I'm the photographer for Apex, so I work with Dr. Lynn Bartan in the Apex series. So I usually on those days I always choose my favorite picture from that Apex event. And then I just have all these different ongoing themes that I kind of, are themes that I go back to. Some of them have a lot of pictures in them. Like I'll be talking more specifically about campus spaces, which are pictures that I've taken here on campus, and then also scenes from Cedar. But some of the other kind of more in-depth themes are like Portland bathroom. I have like, let me see, here it is. I have like 100 pictures. I shot my 100th picture in January of Portland bathrooms. So if you ever want to know what various public bathrooms in Portland look like, they're very visual. And, that theme that I started in Portland carried over. So I lived in Wisconsin for a year before I moved to Utah, and I took some pictures in Wisconsin of bathrooms. I have Utah bathrooms, so I already have 45 bathrooms in Utah. So just a lot of different things that I'll shoot. Plants, playgrounds, rest in peace. That's one of my favorites. And that's kind of led me to be more interested in kind of exploring or investigating cemeteries here in Utah in particular. But the series started in Portland, in this cemetery that I would go to in Southeast Portland all the time. And so there's a lot of images from that particular cemetery. And then once I moved here, just any cemetery I go to. But so that's like, you can go down a deep hole when you start looking at some of this stuff. But today I wanted to talk a little bit more about two themes relating to Cedar City and SUU. And the first one is campus spaces. So I'll just kind of start it down here and point out some of my favorite ones.
Yeah, that would be great.
So I started this in 2017. We moved here in 2016, and the first 2 years I lived here, I was working for the American Language and Culture Center. So there's a shout out to the American Language and Culture Center. And I always have my camera with me. I can't do this if I don't have my camera with me all the time. And so it's almost always within an arm's reach. I just started, because I'm always looking for something to shoot that day. Here at SUU, a lot of my images tend to be kind of those quiet spaces, empty spaces. Sometimes not, but this is like on the bleachers here at the stadium. This is one of my favorites. Sir Newton. I was just walking to work and someone had decided to put a hula skirt on the statue, and I'm like, I got to get a picture of this. And just looking for those kind of unusual spaces and moments here on campus, and I have to have. That's why I carry my camera with me everywhere. I take a lot of walks. I ride my bike a lot, and just that kind of allows me to see these moments and these spaces. So that one, number 6, is one of my favorites. I don't shoot students too often, but every once in a while, something is very visual to me, and I'll take a picture of students, and a lot of weather related images, and just areas that not everybody maybe think to take pictures of. Like this is in the women's bathroom and in the locker room and by the swimming pool.
Well, and I think that's really interesting about your photographs, and that's what I think is really cool about them, is that like you're taking pictures of things that like I walk by or through on campus all the time, right? And so, and I think a lot of us do, but we never kind of think to take a moment and pause and really look at the spaces. And I feel like your photographs really force me to, and so even though they're so familiar, they seem new when I look at them. I thought, like, is that, how intentional is that when you like decide to take a photograph?
I mean, I think that's part of becoming a photographer, like just always kind of looking for good light, looking for good moments, thinking about composition. Those are the 3 things that, if you want to improve your skills as a photographer, just to be really aware of those things all the time, not just when you say to yourself, I'm going to go out and take pictures, but every moment of every day, I'm, constantly thinking about those things. And so for me, it's just very much part of my life, right? Because I'm constantly doing it. And because I'm doing this project, I need that picture, like I need at least one picture a day. And, like for the majority of my days, my life's often boring. I go to work, I teach, I come home, I do, I mow grass or whatever. And so this project really allows me to really see my community in a way that can often be overlooked. And I think one of the things I like about it is that it plays into memory, and it plays into time and kind of documentation, and just again seeing moments. This number 19, that's one of my favorites, just because we get such great light here in southern Utah, and just being there and noticing, okay, like I think in this picture, for example, I saw the tree and I was like, oh, this is great. It's a great moment, but I want something more. I waited like 5 or 10 minutes, which isn't that long. I think what a lot of people do is when they take pictures, they pick up their phone and they take it and then they keep going. And one thing that I would stress, if you're wanting to learn about photography or to be a better photographer, is learn to wait. Learn to sit there in that moment of maybe you see great light, wait for someone to walk through it, wait for a moment to happen that makes that great light something better, something that's says something more, and being intentional with that. I mean, you brought up intention, and just kind of thinking about how things change. Like 20, that was the building of the geology building, or the remodel or whatnot, and like that was going on in that time. And so I think for this project, for me, so much ties into memory, time, what's going on in that moment, on that day, in that space, in that community. And so here, like in 22, I just happened to be in one of the graphic design classrooms. And so, I like the message, but I also like the framing, and it kind of illustrates environment a little bit. Everybody sees all these birds all the time, but so like documenting it when you're seeing it. I obviously take a lot of pictures in the library because I'm there a lot.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorites. Again, I was walking home, or I think I was walking to work, and this tree was outside of where the high school area is, just on your way to the library.
The Success Academy area.
Yeah, the Success Academy. And someone had put this knitted like sweater on the tree, and I'm like, oh, that's great. But just shooting it dead on, it was kind of boring. Like, it was cool, but so like just thinking, again, for those of you who are trying to tone your skills, get down, look for different angles, and get down, get up, get sideways. Sometimes I'm like all over the place trying to get into that frame and storytelling kind of moment. So yeah, just different spaces within campus, and different personalities that you can visibly see on campus. I think I've started shooting more offices, and because a lot of people have stickers and just buttons or whatnot outside their offices. This was one that I took in class. I was just really excited about the activity I was having students do, and then I took some pictures to kind of document it, and it just flows. Therapy dog, there's Mavis. So just getting different perspectives, different events, events that are going on. If I have time to shoot them. Yeah, so that's a lot of, this one I really like, number 39, because, I'm again walking to work that morning, and this tree just had this gorgeous purple color all over, and the fact that it was over this big trash can, it was just kind of beautiful. There's just something beautiful about that. And then, getting involved too of what's going on campus in terms of student events. This was for, I think this was on Earth Day. There was a climate change protest, and a lot of students came out, and just documenting those important events that go on.
That's so cool. And I like how you have like a nice mix of like, you've got some kind of landscape, like nature-oriented campus photos, and then you've got just like I guess the more mundane things, right? Like office windows, or just like what the space looks like, or and so I think that's really cool. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like that kind of ties into what you're talking about in terms of like waiting for a moment to happen, which kind of made me think of when people talk about like mindfulness, right, and kind of being in the moment, and so that kind of resonated in that same way.
Yeah, one of the best assignments I had as an undergrad, as a person learning how to take pictures and how to be a good storyteller, was I had to spend all of my images, I had to produce 10 images or something from one space, one place, and I couldn't move even. And so I chose a bar that I was working at at the time, and it was amazing. It really taught me to wait and be patient and look for moments. And I do that, especially when I'm in big crowds. I'll, like, being in big crowds can be very overwhelming as a photographer, because there's so much going on, and you kind of have to focus on what's the most important thing. What are you trying to tell? What's the story here? And so just stopping and like letting people walk by you and seeing what's happening, and kind of let the moment come to you in a way, is really, can be really interesting, and a good way to get great photos, I think. This one from number 46, this is one of my favorite ones, because we're in the Great Hall all the time, and I shoot in there all the time because I'm in Apex, or I shoot for Apex, and you have all these great portraits, on the walls. And this was during an Honors U event, and it's when we bring, in the honors program, we bring kids in from like 2nd or 3rd grade, and they spend time all day with the honor students. And one of the things that they did was they made their own portrait and put it up on the wall, and I just loved kind of that moment.
That's very cool.
Yeah, so these are most of stuff from campus, and I shoot a lot of other stuff on campus too. I don't always call it campus spaces. I really like this. This is in Professor Sarah Allen's office, and she, creatively put up all of these art pieces of famous women who have kind of led in their industries, and just really interesting to see different personalities, and again, quiet moments, and students, and then the COVID one is one of my favorites too. It's not a great shot by any means, but again, that space and time, and what, the emptiness of these images, no students on campus kind of thing.
Right. And so like when you're taking these pictures, like, so do you feel like beyond just the process, do you feel like taking these has like kind of rooted you more deeply in campus or in Cedar, or like because was it 2016 you said that you guys moved here?
Yeah, just about 4 years ago.
Yeah, so did that was that kind of a process that helped you feel like part of the community?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, throughout my adult life, I've lived in a lot. I've probably moved, since I was 18, probably 20, 30 times, 6 different, I think just since I started this project in the last 10 years, I've lived in like 5 or 6 different houses or whatever, so, and I love that. Like, one of my series down here is where I live, and all of these are taken from my actual living space. And so in a larger way, like a lot of the places that I lived were because I was in school, or because I was in working at a newspaper. And so I was already out in the community every day. And talk about a great way to learn about a community is you're a photographer or you're a journalist. And I lived in Iowa for 6 months, and I felt like I knew that community inside and out, just because I was out there every day. I was shooting pictures of the community every day. And so while I'm not a journalist here, like, because I'm out every day and I'm exploring, and I'll go for car rides or I'll go for walks, I do feel like it's really allowed me to learn more about the community, and just have an appreciation for the environment around me, and the people around me, and what people are interested in, and what they do, and how they decorate, how they just kind of the environment. Oh, the old like titles on businesses, the old buildings. I really like that kind of stuff. They're very visual. Even, events that were going on. This was last October, this number 32, and it's just down the street from where I live. But it was a controversy here in town that some students were chalking the side of a wall, and I just walked by there and took a shot, and you can see, like today, this is especially kind of an ongoing topic, with Black Lives Matter and all the protests and whatnot. But, just kind of how our community also responds to events is really interesting to me. And if I can capture that, sometimes I can, sometimes I don't. I miss, because I am working full time. That I'm not a photographer. I'm not necessarily always at all the community events, but just again going back to different spaces throughout Cedar City. Yeah.
So, do you have do you ever go? You mentioned you always take your camera with you to places. Do you always go with the idea that, yes, I'm going to take a picture, or do you just kind of wait for that moment to strike you, and that kind of decides it for you?
I think that's a good question. I think I'm always aware because I got to get that picture for the day. That's on me. I really try hard to, figure out that time of the day maybe. But I think because I do always have a camera on me, I don't worry about it, but sometimes it's more intentional on some days than other days. If it's like towards the end of the day and I haven't taken a picture of something, then, I'll go for a walk, or I'll look around my house even. I shoot, as you can see with some of my themes, my cats. We just got cats, so that's an ongoing theme. So that's kind of an easy, picture. The chicken coop is another one. These are all pictures of our chickens in our backyard. Backyard bliss is another one. So, it kind of depends on the day and what's going on that day. But because I do have my camera with me, it does make it easy. And in terms of, making sure I get something, I'll shoot a lot of student laptops that have stickers and stuff all over them. I don't know if I've created an ongoing theme for that yet, but that's probably, usually when I have 5 or 6 that I've come back to, I'll actually put it in the ongoing theme. Utah is another one that, all kind of landscapes, mostly landscapes of throughout Utah. But yeah, sometimes I don't, like I have my DSLR that I usually have on me. But sometimes, like if I'm going on a bike ride, or I'm out like on the water in any way, then I'll have a little waterproof camera that I'll have on me, and that makes it a little bit easier, like especially when I'm riding my bike or whatnot. But yeah, that's a good question. But I think one of the things that I'm trying to do more of is thinking about different aspects of Cedar. Like this one, 36, my friend Adam, who teaches in the graphic design department, he also plays the flute. And, he was playing with Stephen Swift, who is another SU advisor, I think. And they were playing music and like trying to get something that's a little bit different. It's okay. It's like I shot it. It's a reflection of a mirror, and it's not amazing, but just trying new things is something that I think is still important. Even though I've been taking pictures for 25 years or however long, like trying new things and always knowing that I've got more to learn. Like I tell people this all the time. Both with anthropology and with photography, but I'm never going to wake up and say, all right, I got it. Like I
Right.
know it. I know it all, or I know how to do it all. And there's always something to shoot. There's always something to document, and just trying to take something that's really not all that amazing, or it's kind of normal or usual everyday scenes, and making them interesting, or yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and I think that's a really fabulous point. And I think it ties in really well to my last question, because we have a few minutes left. I wanted to ask if, like, as somebody with a background in anthropology and as a photographer and just as kind of a creative person, like, um, is, is there anything that you would want, students or community members to know in terms of kind of dealing, like, how to use creative outlets or mindfulness or any of these skills to kind of deal with everything that's going on, right? I hope that question makes sense.
yeah. That's a great question. I mean, for me, knowing that this is something I'm doing every day, no matter what day it is, no matter what's going on in the world, no matter what's going on in my life. A lot of I have some of them are, but only a few of my photos are actually like largely about me, or like I have the only time I ever like shoot myself, for example, is on my birthday. And everything else is kind of about either my environment that I'm in or the community that I'm in, but in that time. And so I think, I don't know if this makes sense, but I think it's important to like document that and what it is around you. And that's why I do this. It's one of the reasons why I do this. But I think it's just important to, have something in your life that you do every day, and that you like, and that you're passionate about, and that you care about. And that, I think for me anyway, that helped having my photography project. I mean, I'm not making any money on this. I'm not, really doing anything with it other than posting pictures, at least right now. I mean, that might change in the future. But it's important to me that I go out every day and I shoot, or I try to get a good moment or a nice moment. And that helps me also with other things, whether it's, COVID worries, or the racist institutional racism going on, and educating myself more and more about that. But I think having something in your life that you can trust, and that you're passionate about, and that you care about, is just important, whatever that is. If it's writing, if it's painting, if it's going out and taking pictures, if it's anything creative, sculpture, design, what have you. You don't have to be an expert to do those things. Crocheting, I crochet, that's something I do in the winter that just gets me to kind of not check out, but just help, it's something that I go into, or I do. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but
It does. That was actually a really great answer, and because I think it resonates really well with something that Dr. Peterson said on one of our interviews, from the writing end, and I think that balances out really well. So yeah. So thank you so much. And we can check out your work at katieenglert.com.
yeah,
I will post the link in the video description when this gets uploaded to YouTube.
awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Katie. I really appreciate you taking the time with us.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to talk about photo with me, I could talk for days and days. And one thing that I think is really fun about this project is that you can name a date, and I can go to that date, and like for me, it's a memory thing. Like I go back in time in a way, and that's pretty cool too. So anyway, thank you,
Very cool.
Christopher. This has been awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much, Katie.